Well, thanks so much for being here, and I'll come back over there too during the presentation because that is deep. Thanks so much for being out here tonight. I'm going to do my best to get you to change, expand, maybe alter a little bit about how you think about social media. The reason why is because I do not consider myself a social media expert, nor a guru, nor a ninja. I'm just a student, as I believe we all are, because this is moving pretty quickly, and it's changing much more than marketing, communications, and advertising. It is actually changing how we communicate with one another, how we connect with one another, who we want to connect with and why, and who wants to connect with us. And so I'm going to show you a couple of things. I hope this works. We were having some issues earlier. This is an actual review of my book. How many people have read Engage? Okay. For those who haven't, don't let me scare you. And it'll make sense in a minute. I promise it's not true. Because, and you can start filming it. I didn't want that to go on the web. The reason why I showed you that is because there is an impression or perception that social media is easy and it's free. And people who have made those comments probably had a difficult time sort of diving into probably what is a complex subject. And plus, I'm not going to BS you. I don't write in one-word, syllable, three-word sentences. I really have a passion for language. And I have a passion for this subject, and I might just barf it all over the page and deal with it. I promise by the time you're done with the book, you will be a lot further ahead than some of these experts that are out there. And I guess that's the point. I wanted to write a book that would empower you to go out and rock, right? Because if you're not out there rocking, if you're going to have to rely on everyone else who is supposedly rocking, and how do we know that they're rocking? We don't. How do we know that they're successful? We don't. They're probably just great at self-promotion. But I believe that you have this unique opportunity to answer your own questions. Because if you fail in public, and you really only get one shot at a first impression in social. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. And this was a review of a book, and some of my subjects that I've written about that came out today. And this author was pretty interesting. He said, "You don't need a PhD to do social media. Or do you?" And what I found interesting about this article is that it kind of made me feel a little bit better about those negative reviews that I found, in the sense that he said, look, I approached this in two different ways. One was the Fortune 100 VP of Business Development and VP of Marketing and Sales. And then I also approached this as someone who was realizing that I might not know everything I believe I know. And when I let my guard down to see that there might be something more than just friends, followers, fans, likes, what have you, retweets, that there might be something more to this, I started to think about the true power of social media. Now I'm going to share a few little secrets with you. This was the original cover of the book. It's also the original title of the book. And it was a celebration a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago now, but when I wrote the original social media manifesto. And in that book, there was a rallying cry. This whole notion of engage or die, and everybody seems to latch onto that. Like, what does it mean? Are we going to perish? No, it's not. It's what happened to the dinosaurs. But I call it digital Darwinism in the sense that really this is an opportunity for both evolution and revolution, and it's yours to define. And they sort of latched onto that as well, and they really wanted me to call it the Social Media Manifesto. And at the last minute, I changed the name of the book because they really didn't want it to be about social media at all. In fact, you can take all of the names of social networks out of this book, and you will have what is really the fundamental foundation for the future of business and communication and engagement. And that's what it's really all about. It's not about Twitter. It's not about Facebook, although we might think it is. It's really about you and how you connect with others. But engage or die really seemed to latch on to other individuals. One day I had this big package in the mail, and this came all the way from Germany. A t-shirt with engage or die in my own mug. I don't actually wear this. But I let my wife wear it when she's next to me. Makes me look cooler. And this is the artist behind the conversation prism, if you've seen that graphic, Jesse Thomas of Jess 3. This is Gaping Void, or Hugh MacLeod, if you know him, also created an image to celebrate Engage or Die. And if you haven't seen this one, this is Gumshoe, where they took the word engage and basically put me in a position where I have to tell John Luke Picard to get out of my chair. All of this really to just kind of lighten up what's about to become a very serious discussion, but I'll throw in some humor every now and then. I don't know if you can see this, but really, the way we approach marketing, communications, and business today in general is a very top-down approach. We get around in a conference room, we bring in some creative talent, we bring in some of the biggest minds in the business and say, okay, how are we going to rock the world today? But we don't necessarily know who it is we want to rock and why. And what social is doing is sort of equalizing the landscape. It's also equalizing influence. And therefore, in order to engage effectively today, you have to look at this idea of a bottom-up strategy, especially if you want people to care. So there's this little problem in the marketplace, and I call it the last mile. The last mile is the solution to this problem. And for all of those who've been in the internet business or the cable business, the last mile means something pretty similar. And that last mile is connection. So if you subscribe to an internet provider or a cable provider, the last mile in their regards is the dude that has to come into the, to your house in a truck and manually connect the service to your house. The last mile in social media are the individuals on the front lines connecting content and words with you and me as consumers. And there is a massive disconnect right now across the board. Representatives aren't quite sure what the brand represents in social media. Consumers are not quite sure what the representatives are talking about if they're not connected to the brand, and therefore the consumer is disconnected from the brand at the same time. And when I talk about the representative being disconnected from what the brand represents in social media, it's quite unique. It's quite a unique dilemma, right? If you look at some of the best customer service professionals in the world, they go through some pretty rigorous training, right? How to diffuse situations, how to extinguish situations, how to turn somebody from negative to positive. But what they don't go through is, hey, if the brand was a human being, who would it be? What would its voice sound like? What would its personality or characteristics be like? Because when you are on the front lines of social media, you are actually talking to somebody using real words, real engagement, real human beings getting together. And so what does that mean? That means that chances are the consumer is walking away with experience of you as Jill, Amy, Joe, Bob, but not necessarily of the brand. And it's a lot like Disneyland. If you've ever been to Disneyland, you see Mickey Mouse walking around, you see Minnie Mouse, you see Goofy, and really, to the kids all over the park, and to this big kid, that really is Mickey Mouse. I want to believe that. And that character embodies all that Mickey Mouse represents. And when Mickey Mouse has to take a smoke break, we don't see it. He hides underneath some of the burrows of Disneyland, and he takes off that big mask, and he becomes the person